Blake Lively is facing a new legal challenge, but this time it's from a man named Jed Wallace, an apparent crisis manager who accuses the actress of falsely claiming that he helped orchestrate a smear campaign against her. Lively's complaint names Wallace and others in an alleged conspiracy to tarnish her image, but now Wallace is hitting back, demanding not only compensation, but a court order to clear his name. We're going to break down his legal action, his apparent connections to this overall It Ends With Us story, and what this may tell us about the overall allegations. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Blake Lively is facing yet another intense legal battle, but this time it's not with her co-star Justin Baldoni from It Ends With Us. No, rather, this is with somebody named Jed Wallace. So he is the founder of this crisis management firm called Street Relations. And he is somebody who, if you've been following this story, is another key figure in this ongoing Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively legal fight. And he has now filed a $7 million lawsuit against her. And this is a defamation action, and it's also a declaratory judgment action. We're going to explain both. But this 10-page complaint that was filed Monday in Texas federal court accuses Blake Lively of making unfounded claims that he was involved in a coordinated smear campaign against her. And in addition to monetary damages, Wallace is seeking a court order. It's called a declaratory judgment, affirming that he wasn't involved in any harassment or retaliation against Lively. So as I said, Wallace operates this company called Street Relations, which is referred to as just Street in the filings. According to the lawsuit, this is a crisis mitigation firm engaged by clients to help navigate real-life human crisis, threats, trauma, and mental health concerns. It helps primarily families and individuals when they find themselves unjustly attacked, extorted, doxxed, swatted, scammed, or need help navigating through the most frightening situations. Now, according to his lawsuit, the main contention here, the main argument, is that Wallace and his company, they argue, were wrongfully implicated in Lively's sexual harassment and retaliation action against Justin Baldoni. And this lawsuit, this new lawsuit, follows Lively's own complaint, in which Wallace was named as a defendant alongside others, including crisis manager Melissa Nathan, publicist Jennifer Abel, Wayfarer Studios, that's Justin Baldoni's production company, its CEO, Jamie Heath, and of course, Lively's It Ends With Us co-star and director, Justin Baldoni. Hey everybody, this is a Law&Crime legal alert. Did you know that children are being diagnosed with serious conditions like type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and the research is potentially linking ultra-processed foods to all this? Yeah, well, Morgan & Morgan is stepping in to fight to hold these food companies accountable. With decades of experience fighting large corporations, they are ready to stand up for the families who deserve justice. So if your child under 21 has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or fatty liver disease, then visit www.forthepeople.com/food to learn more. According to Lively's complaint, Wallace was retained by Baldoni's team to orchestrate a campaign across social media platforms and internet forums that targeted her while attempting to defend Baldoni. In fact, her complaint reads, they, referring to Baldoni's crisis team, also retained subcontractors, including a Texas-based contractor named Jed Wallace, who weaponized a digital army around the country from New York to Los Angeles to create, seed, and promote content that appeared to be authentic on social media platforms and internet chat forums. The Baldoni Wayfarer team would then feed pieces of this manufactured content to unwitting reporters, making content go viral in order to influence public opinion and thereby cause an organic pile-on. However, Wallace's legal team argues that these accusations are not only false, but they're not even backed up by supporting evidence. Evidence that he claims Lively herself acknowledged. His lawsuit states, Lively later admitted she knew of no facts to support the allegations against Wallace or Street. And we're going to get into where he claims she admitted that, but I first want to start from the top here, break it all down, and we'll get to that part later. So, on December 20th, This is when Blake Lively filed that complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, alleging that Justin Baldoni and others, including Wallace, quote, engaged in a variety of conduct in violation of California Government Code Section 12940 and Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And by the way, this was a precursor to the lawsuit that she was ultimately going to file. And this statute is a part of the Fair Employment and Housing Act, which provides protection against harassment or discrimination in the workplace. And when Lively filed her official lawsuit after the complaint, and this is a big point, I don't know if everybody knows this, but neither Wallace nor his company were named as defendants. There's been a lot of mixed reporting on this. A lot of people haven't been realizing this, and that's actually the point. Here's the problem, according to Wallace. Wallace contends by that point, the damage was already done, because as the story spread, he asserts that he was wrongfully named in articles as a defendant due to Lively's complaint, that people didn't realize he actually wasn't a defendant in the lawsuit. So this next part of the filing has a kind of an interesting claim in it, which reads, Lively or her agents provided the precursor, meaning the complaint, to various media entities for out-of-court republication. And because of the allegations contained therein, it made headlines around the world, according to Elle magazine, which linked to the precursor document, as did many other media. Wallace and Street were widely reported to be defendants in the formal lawsuit, although they were not. The confusion having been sown by the precursor. And then listen to this. Indeed, having been the one harassed, she knew the exact opposite. Neither Wallace nor Street had anything to do with the alleged sexual harassment, retaliation, failure to investigate, or aiding and abetting the alleged harassment or alleged retaliation. Neither could they have breached a contract with Lively because no such contract exists, and they were not involved in any of the events depicted in either the precursor, where they were named as defendants, or the formal lawsuit, where they were not named, which could give rise to a duty toward defendant, negligence, or any other tortious conduct, false light, intentional infliction of emotional distress, or interference with prospective economic advantage. So, again, he's saying the fact that I wasn't named in that lawsuit, the harm was already done. People thought I already was. But I got to tell you, the choice of words there was interesting, right? Having been the one harassed, she knew the exact opposite. Raises kind of an interesting point, right? Is he suggesting that Blake Lively herself was somehow harassed? Is he admitting that? Or is he saying, hey, for the person claiming to be harassed, she should have known better? I don't know. But I'll tell you, why wasn't Wallace directly named in Blake Lively's lawsuit? That's a big question, right? Well, I gotta say, it may have something to do with a specific legal maneuver that Lively allegedly pursued on January 21st when Wallace claimed she filed a verified petition for Rule 202 deposition in Hays County, Texas. So this petition accused Wallace of being hired by a company called TAG to help orchestrate a smear campaign against Lively. TAG is short for the Agency Group. It's a firm led by Melissa Nathan, who is a defendant in this case with Blake Lively. She and her company are accused of being instrumental in this alleged smear campaign against her. And Melissa Nathan was Baldoni's former crisis manager. Now, a Rule 202 deposition under Texas civil procedure allows a person to request a deposition before filing a lawsuit. It's typically used to investigate claims, gather evidence, identify potential defendants before you actually file a case. Doesn't necessarily mean that he would be a defendant, maybe would be a key witness, but Wallace's filing suggests that Lively knew her case against him lacked merit. And back to what I mentioned before, according to Wallace's lawsuit, the 202 petition conceded that Lively has no facts supporting the allegation she made against Wallace and Street in the precursor, which made headlines around the world as she now, apparently under the threat of sanctions from one of plaintiff's attorneys, sought to investigate the scope of Mr. Wallace's conduct. Now, according to Hays County online court records, Lively ultimately withdrew her Rule 202 petition on February 4th, the same day that Wallace filed his lawsuit. Not entirely clear why she did that. I suppose if you ask him and his team, he would say it's because she didn't have any evidence against him, or she knew he really had nothing to add to this. But even though Lively ultimately filed her lawsuit without naming Wallace or his company as a defendant or defendants, she can still name him later on if she chooses to file an amended complaint, but we'll have to see if that actually happens. But I want to take a closer look at what Wallace is actually suing over. So His first cause of action is under the Declaratory Judgment Act, which essentially allows a person to resolve a dispute before it escalates into a full-blown lawsuit. It's basically a court order that defines someone's legal rights or obligations. So Wallace is seeking this relief because he claims that Lively's actions have already caused him significant harm to his reputation, to his business, after she first accused him in that first complaint. And he argues that this is the appropriate course of action, and he wants the court to issue a declaratory judgment to confirm that neither he nor his company, quote, breached any contract with defendant for the reason that, among others, no such contract exists. They did not engage in any acts of harassment, retaliation, failure to investigate, prevent and/or remedy harassment, or aid and abet the alleged harassment or retaliation for the reason, among others, that they were not even present or otherwise involved in the events giving rise to the alleged harassment, nor did they have contemporaneous knowledge of the alleged events of harassment or retaliation. They did not have a duty to defendant, which would give rise to a claim for negligence, and they did not engage in any tortious conduct toward defendant. So this would be a way, seemingly, to ensure he doesn't get named in an amended complaint by Blake Lively. Although generally, I will say, courts are generally not so eager to grant declaratory judgments because they would rather a litigation develop, let evidence come forward, let evidence be presented before they make an official ruling or judgment. So we'll see how that one shakes up. But he also has a second cause of action in this lawsuit, and that's for defamation. That's a topic that's come up frequently here on Sidebar, particularly when we talk about celebrity issues, but defamation claims have been at the heart of this battle between Lively and Baldoni. Remember, he is suing her for defamation. He's also suing the New York Times for defamation. Talk about that in a little bit. But Wallace claims that Lively knowingly spread false information about him, and her actions were driven either by negligence or, if it's determined that he's a public figure, then the higher standard of actual malice. So in a defamation action, actual malice is when you knew the statement was false or you acted with reckless disregard for the truth. And his suit states, quote, "She acted with actual malice because she was the one claiming to have been harassed and retaliated against. She was the one who claimed she had a contract with plaintiffs, and yet there is no such contract, and plaintiffs were nowhere near her when the alleged harassment/retaliation took place. She knew and knows that they were not the harassers, retaliators, but made these allegations anyway, leaked them to the press, hoping they would be widely republished, which they were, but then excluded plaintiffs from the formal lawsuit, knowing they had nothing to do with the events depicted therein." Again, let's just be clear about something. If she didn't name him as a defendant, it doesn't necessarily mean that she's foregoing her allegations against him and Street. But there could be another reason she actually chose not to include him in the lawsuit. Again, just want to make that point clear. But to fully understand what Jed Wallace is denying, we got to revisit Lively's original complaint, where Wallace is named as a defendant. But again, he's not in her official federal lawsuit. But Lively claims she was sexually harassed by Justin Baldoni on the It Ends With Us set, and that when she confronted him and insisted on certain rules being put in place to protect people on the set, like an intimacy coordinator being present, Baldoni allegedly enlisted a crisis manager to help create a smear campaign against her. That she came forward, now he's going to essentially tarnish her reputation in the media. That's the big allegation here. And this is where Jed Wallace enters the picture. So Lively alleges that Melissa Nathan, and her team enlisted Wallace to help out. In her complaint, Lively states that Wallace weaponized a digital army around the country from New York to LA to create, seed, and promote content that appeared to be authentic on social media platforms and internet chat forums. And Lively continues, claiming that Baldoni's team would feed this content to the media to manipulate public opinion in her favor. Now, while Wallace's team maintains that Lively admitted to lacking evidence for these claims, Lively's complaint includes what appears to be text messages referencing Jed Wallace. One example is a text from August 10th, 2024, so that's the day after It Ends With Us was released, in which Melissa Nathan allegedly told Jennifer Abel, "We've also started to see a shift on social due largely to Jed and his team's efforts to shift the narrative towards shining a spotlight on Blake and Ryan. Again, we'll continue to send links and screenshots, but wanted to send an update in the meantime. August 9th, so this is the day the movie was released. Nathan also reportedly texted Abel, "We are crushing it on Reddit. Jed." Now that text message appears to have quotation marks around it, and Lively's complaint says that the text is typed that way because it's in reference to the efforts that Wallace allegedly made to influence Reddit forums attacking Blake Lively and defending Justin Baldoni. But further on in her complaint, Lively brings up a particular scenario that she says happened. So you have another example of Baldoni's team allegedly using Wallace to help shift the narrative. So what you have here appears to be Jennifer Abel allegedly circulating a screenshot of a post by this woman that appeared to disparage Baldoni, and part of that post reads, quote, "Justin, the creator of a show called My Last Days, exploits the struggles of individuals facing terminal illnesses for his own gain. He found my friend who was battling a serious illness and followed her life closely. Despite her grace in not speaking ill of him, I sensed from the start that something was deeply wrong. Justin weaponizes therapeutic language, presenting himself as thoughtful and supportive, yet his actions reveal a very different reality. He portrays himself as an ally to women and the vulnerable, but it's all a facade. He manipulates the vernacular of care to mask his true intentions." And Lively says when Jennifer Abel caught wind of this post, she forwarded it to the tag team, saying in a text message, quote, "I'm assuming this is not true in the slightest. This girl is on a very dangerous crusade to earn more followers. Either way, we flag Jed and his team for more serious action on the social side. We'll monitor heavily for any shift in narrative seen based on this narrative regarding My Last Days and any other commentary on it." Later on, August 18th, Lively argues that the tag team suggested speaking with Jed Wallace about the allegations that were circulating online against Justin Baldoni. So you have this text allegedly from Jennifer Abel seemingly raising the concern. It reads, "So this girl is claiming that Justin invited her up to his hotel room years ago. I didn't want to share the vid, but Redacted did a screen record, and this is her account, so you guys can take a look at it. Part of me wants Redacted, his former assistants, to comment and say this never happened. Ridiculous." In response, a redacted name, likely a member of the tag team, replies, "Let us chat to Jed as well on this." Now, there are two narratives here, two schools of thought on all this kind of stuff. One is that this is evidence that Baldoni and his team were digitally manipulating public narrative against Blake Lively and in Justin Baldoni's favor. The other way of looking at it is nothing wrong about trying to quiet bad press, and Baldoni hired his team not to go on the offensive against Blake Lively because she spoke up about Baldoni's alleged offensive or harassing conduct on the set, but rather for the defensive, that he thought Blake Lively was going to make what he claims were false allegations, make them public. Now, again, so two different theories on this. I don't know if we'll ever get a real straight answer as to what's going on here, and keep that in mind because we'll talk about that in a second. Now, here's the thing. There was an amended complaint that was recently submitted when the lawsuits of Baldoni and Lively seemed to be combined, consolidated. And from what we can gather in that amended complaint, it seems that Wallace maybe was involved in some aspect of the promotions related to Baldoni, though it's kind of unclear exactly what role he played or how deeply he was involved. What we can discern is that Wallace seemed to be part of discussions around Baldoni's public image, because in one group text exchange, Baldoni expresses concern about bots spreading commentary about him on social media, saying, "I've been seeing some IG comments on random posts defending me by people who are private with no followers, and they feel like bots. Can you please confirm that we are not doing any of that? I really don't want bots defending me as it feeds into their potential narrative." First of all, that text could be actually helpful to Baldoni's argument that he wasn't engaging in an inauthentic digital warfare campaign, but take a listen to this response. This is the big part, because a response, presumably from another group member, states, "I can fully confirm we do not have bots. This is not also what we do. Bots look fake to anyone. The other team is doing something very specific in terms of what they do. I know Jamie and Jed connected on this." So that exchange seems to imply that Baldoni was concerned about the use of fake bot accounts to create positive support for him on social media, and he wanted to seek reassurance from his team that no sort of manipulation was happening. But also, the response suggests that while they weren't using bots, they were involved in something else, something not explicitly detailed, though it involved discussions between, and it seems to be, Jamie Heath, the CEO of Wayfair, the production company, and Jed Wallace, right? And let's be clear, we're not saying his involvement was illegal or criminal or in violation of his duties as a crisis mitigation expert, but just that he was apparently somehow involved with Justin Baldoni's PR. Now, we've mentioned Baldoni's argument before, right? That he's not responsible for all the negative press that Blake Lively was getting on social media and in the media. That it was Lively's approach to promoting the film that might have backfired on her, like some of her outfit choices, promoting her alcohol company, and seemingly trivializing the film's intense subject matter, domestic violence. And this sentiment appears in the combined amended complaint, where there's an exchange referencing Wallace's involvement. So a text message from a member of the group states, "We didn't tell Jed to go after the idea that her promo was inappropriate. That happened organically because people saw the actual movie and were like, wait, this is a movie about domestic violence," that they wore florals to. By the way, that also arguably helps Baldoni that Lively was torpedoing herself, that it was her own fault. But this text suggests that although Wallace maybe wasn't specifically tasked with addressing negative publicity about Lively's promotion, again, he was tasked with addressing something. Again, unclear what that is. And the reason we're saying it's unclear is because Wallace's lawsuit doesn't even clarify what he was specifically tasked with doing or why his name is even mentioned in text messages. That's the very interesting part about all this, because you would think he might want to clear his name and reveal what his true role is in all of this, but he doesn't. Now, maybe one of the things that I thought about, maybe he signed an NDA. Maybe he doesn't want to reveal his true job description and duties and break the NDA unless he absolutely has to. Maybe he's just defending the best way he can without really going into detail about what he did and didn't do. Just spitballing here, but something that came into my mind, not entirely sure. What we do know is that according to his filing, Wallace's company, Street Relations, again, is a crisis mitigation firm engaged by clients to help navigate real-life human crisis, threats, trauma, and mental health concerns. It's also worth noting, by the way, that Wallace is named as a plaintiff in Baldoni's lawsuit against the New York Times, though no specific examples are provided in the suit related to Jed Wallace. And I will also tell you, Jed Wallace himself, a bit of a mysterious figure. He seems to not have that much of an online presence. We tried to look for him a little bit, couldn't find that much. But I will tell you this. In response to the ongoing legal situation, a spokesperson for Jed Wallace issued the following statement, quote, "Blake Lively made false statements to the press through a private administrative filing claiming Mr. Wallace and Street Relations had sexually harassed her, retaliated against her, aided and abetted others who did the same, breached a contract with her, and engaged in other improper conduct. Mr. Wallace, who is a very private person, has never met or spoken to Miss Lively, ever. He has not engaged in a smear campaign against her at any point in time. The decision to file this lawsuit to rightfully protect himself and his family was made after Miss Lively not only filed against him first in Texas, but indicated she intended to name him in yet another lawsuit." Now we have another side. A spokesperson for Blake Lively also issued a statement regarding this lawsuit, stating, "Another day, another state, another 9-figure lawsuit seeking to sue Miss Lively into oblivion for speaking out against sexual harassment retaliation. This is not just a publicity stunt. It is transparent retaliation in response to allegations contained within a sexual harassment retaliation complaint that Miss Lively filed with the California Civil Rights Department. While this lawsuit will be dismissed, we are pleased that Mr. Wallace has finally emerged from the shadows and that he too will be held accountable in federal court." Does that mean, though, that she is going to name him as a defendant in her lawsuit? Again, we'll wait and see. But the big picture here is that Wallace's lawsuit has become just the latest legal headache for Blake Lively, who again is already embroiled in this bitter legal battle with Justin Baldoni. The pair's on-screen chemistry helped make It Ends With Us a surprise box office hit. According to a website that tracks worldwide box office numbers, the film grossed $351 million from just a modest $25 million budget. It was based off of a very popular book, and you also got to wonder if the rumors about the behind-the-scenes drama may have wanted people to come see the movie. But interestingly, it made more money internationally, according to the website The Numbers, in countries like the UK, Germany, France, Australia, than it did domestically. But behind the scenes, dueling lawsuits have exposed the tension between the stars, as Lively allegedly fought for more creative control, began feeling uncomfortable during intimate scenes. The conflict started, as we mentioned, when Lively filed a California civil rights complaint, followed by a federal lawsuit claiming that Baldoni crossed professional boundaries during filming. She alleged that Baldoni entered her trailer while she was topless, that Jamie Heath, the CEO of Wayfair, showed her a graphic video of his wife giving birth, even made the claim that Baldoni bit and sucked on her lips during an unscripted kissing scene. And further, she accused Justin Baldoni, who is married, who is a father, of conspiring to damage her reputation, citing a text from Baldoni's associate, Melissa Nathan, that read, "We can bury anyone." Now, Lively's bombshell allegations grabbed international headlines, especially after a New York Times expose quoted heavily from the civil rights complaint. But Baldoni didn't take this lying down. He hit back with a countersuit, turning the narrative on its head. He claimed that it was actually Lively's team who orchestrated the smear campaign against him. He claimed that he is the victim, that he has been the victim of bullying and intimidation. He has demanded $400 million in damages. He has accused her of distorting the meaning of his emails and texts and actions and conversations to provide false allegations that he is a sexual harasser, and that she collaborated with powerful Hollywood publicist Leslie Sloan to plant damaging stories about him in the press. And Baldoni suggested that Lively's negative public image was part of a strategy to rebuild her reputation, that might have been one of the reasons she filed this lawsuit. And as if this drama couldn't get any more complicated, Baldoni also filed a $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times, claiming this publication relied heavily on Lively's, what he says, unverified version of events, ignored substantial evidence that contradicted her claims, that the newspaper cherry-picked certain communications, didn't provide the full context, suing for defamation. The newspaper, though, to be clear, has vowed to vigorously defend itself against these allegations from Baldoni. And last month, what did we see? An explosive new development shook the case when Baldoni's team seemingly released previously unseen raw footage of Baldoni and Lively filming a romantic dance scene for the film. The footage was intended to counter Lively's claims that Baldoni acted unprofessionally and made her uncomfortable. However, Lively's legal team argues that the footage actually supports her allegations. In her lawsuit, she details how Baldoni leaned forward and slowly dragged his lips from her ear and down her neck, whispering, "It smells so good." And that interaction plays a crucial role in her harassment claims. But Baldoni and his team argue that the footage shows nothing inappropriate, and it only strengthens their belief that Lively's allegations are false, that she was the one who crossed the line, she was the one who made inappropriate comments, and that anything he said and did was explainable. Here's a quick snippet.
I'm not getting a beard on you today.
I'm probably getting spray tan on you.
It smells good.
Well, it's not that. It's my body makeup.
And then, what do we have? The Daily Mail publishes a voice note from Baldoni to Lively where he can be heard apologizing to her, presumably after receiving a lengthy text that she allegedly sent him regarding revisions she had made to part of the film's script that arguably he didn't really take seriously or didn't really want to consider.
I want to start with an apology. Man, reading the second part of your message, my heart sank. And I'm really sorry. I for sure fell short. And you worked really hard on that. I am far from perfect. I am a very flawed man, as my wife will attest. And and I'm gonna up. I'm gonna say the wrong thing. I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth. I'm gonna piss you off probably, but I will always apologize and find my way back to center. And damn right, you got great friends if that's how you felt and they knew that. And we should all have friends like that. Aside from the fact that they're two of the most creative people on the planet. The three of you guys together is unbelievable. Talk about energy and just to force all three of you. But I just wanted you to know that I didn't need that, because it's really good and it's going to make the movie sing like you said. And I am so sorry you have been through what you've been through with these other filmmakers and producers or whoever the people were that you worked with. It just pissed me off. Those that, I'm just still kind of blown away that this is the industry that we're in and that you've experienced that as a woman. And I know I don't need to say it, but that's not at all going to be or will be, and hopefully it's not been the experience with me. There's nothing more exciting to me like that I get to work with Blake Lively and have her, all of her. I mean, that's what I want. Anyways, I have so much more to say. I'm going to stop rambling because, Jesus Christ, it's been 6 minutes and 30 seconds, so me. I'm sorry. You probably have kids all over you and a baby on your boob, and you're listening to me ramble at 2 a.m. I hope you're feeling better, and give Ryan my love.
And then what do we have? We have the release, the publication of this new website from last weekend, where it has all of these new communications, including with Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, her husband, who's also named as a defendant in this action by Baldoni. It's on this website called thelawsuitinfo.com, and it seems that Baldoni and his team seem to suggest this reveals the truth. His legal team has repeatedly suggested that Lively and her associates fabricated the claims as part of a larger strategy to discredit him and to take control over the film. That website has sparked considerable buzz, came online just days before the first court hearing for this case. And let's talk about that, because this is another twist in the saga. Came on Monday morning, first court conference. And this is where Judge Lewis Lyman warned both sides about what they say in the public about this case. Don't say anything that could taint a future jury. Don't do anything that could materially prejudice this case, and warned that if there are violations, he might actually have to move up the trial date. And as this legal battle rages on, both sides are preparing for what promises to be a long and contentious road to trial, and a long and contentious trial if it gets to that. And that's currently scheduled for March of 2026. But that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.